everybody. Today, my mommy is going to talk about Grover Cleveland.
Thank you, Noah, for introducing Grover Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th President of the United States. Yeah, you heard me right. Grover Cleveland was both the 22nd and 24th President of the United States. That's because he won the election of 1884, lost 4 years later, then made a comeback in 1892 to defeat Benjamin Harrison, the same opponent that beat him 4 years earlier. What makes Grover Cleveland more awesome is that he is the only president born in the state of New Jersey, the very same state that we're recording this podcast from. Grover Cleveland and his family were living in New York when his father Richard passed away in 1853. Grover was only 16 at the time. He decided not to go to college, but instead to work to help support his family. He became a teacher at a school for the blind in New York while he studied law. He passed the bar exam in 1859 and opened up a successful law practice in Buffalo, New York. He also started becoming more active in politics, aligning himself with the Democrats. When the Civil War started, Grover Cleveland was drafted to fight for the Union, but hired another man to replace him for $300 so he could support his family. This was totally legal at the time. Political opponents would use this fact against him later to imply that Grover Cleveland was a coward and lacked patriotism. He gained quite the reputation as an outstanding lawyer in Buffalo and was able to gain enough support to become the mayor of Buffalo. He then became governor of New York. At the time, New York had the largest number of electoral votes with 36. So Grover Cleveland became the Democratic Party favorite in the election of 1884. He won the election by 37 electoral votes, but it was even closer than that. He defeated Republican candidate James G. Blaine by only 23,000 popular votes total and won New York by less than 1%. Nevertheless, Grover Cleveland did just enough to win the White House and become the first Democrat to become president in 24 years. As president, Grover Cleveland decided he would take a more preventative role, and rather than pushing for new policies, his goal was to enforce the ones already in place. His major focus was to eliminate waste and corruption. He did this in several ways, including vetoing hundreds of pension requests from Civil War veterans that were undeserving of the money. He also established the Interstate Commerce Commission to make sure that the railroad rates were fair. A lot of his actions were fiscally responsible, but going after Civil War veterans and the railroad industry still took lots of courage. When Grover Cleveland lived in Buffalo, he had a law partner by the name of Oscar Folsom. In 1864, Oscar Folsom and his wife Emma had a baby girl and named her Frances. Grover Cleveland got the Folsoms a baby carriage for their newborn baby. Oscar Folsom passed away after a horse carriage accident in 1875, so Grover Cleveland continued to look after Frances and her mother Emma. In 1886, Grover Cleveland became the first president to get married in the White House when he married Frances Folsom, who was 27 years younger than himself. President Cleveland's second term was not quite as successful as the first. The economy was in terrible shape. Over 500 banks closed in 1893, major railroads closed down, and millions of workers lost their jobs. Although Cleveland was not directly responsible for many of these occurrences, as they happened so quickly after his second term began, the issues remained for most of his second term. As a result, his popularity was rather low at the end of his second term. After leaving the White House, 60-year-old Grover Cleveland his wife and his 3 children went back to New Jersey, where his life began. He had 2 more children in his 60s, bringing the total to 5. His youngest child, Frances, passed away only 25 years ago. During his final years, Cleveland became a trustee of Princeton University, where he would meet future President Woodrow Wilson. Before passing, Grover Cleveland uttered these final words, "I have tried so hard to do right." Join Olivia and her dad tomorrow when they get curious about telephones. Until next time, stay curious.